Hi, welcome to the channel Coder's Arc, where we unravel the world of coding and architecture together. And today I'm going to be talking about how I have been using Claude Code in the last couple of months. Now, I have not been making videos as frequently as I would like, but that's because I've taken on a new role within my organization and I've been busy working on some new projects, some new technologies, and some new cloud frameworks. But I thought this would be a video that would be very beneficial to all of you because I have been using Claude Code frequently to learn some new skills, and I would share some of the techniques that I've been using that I've found useful. So, the very first thing is that whenever you face a brand new project, let's say it's a complex technology project that you do not have familiarity with, whether you don't have familiarity with the domain, whether you don't have familiarity with the technology, the first thing that you want to do is do some research. So, there is no shame in using Claude Code as a chatbot in the research phase. As much as it is considered a taboo to use Claude Code as chatbot, I would say during your research phase, have no inhibitions. Ask all kinds of questions. Fill in your knowledge gaps. Use it as a peer thinker. Use it as a thinking partner. I've done that shamelessly. And then I would say about a couple of weeks, I mean, in my case, it was a fairly complex project, depending on the complexity of the project. Take your time to fill in the gaps. Take a couple of weeks to use it as a chatbot to fill in your knowledge gaps. And then when you think you have a fairly good grasp of the subject matter, of the domain, of the technology landscape, at that point you should start doing the planning. So you move into the planning phase. So, in the planning phase, you should have your architecture and coder hat on, and you should ask questions in terms of how you would structure. Let's say you're making a brand new product on a new technology or a new domain, and at that time, you should start structuring your plan on how you would architect something. That's where you can ask Cloud Code and assistance in how you would define the backend, how you define the database layer, how you define the front end layer, how you define the APIs, how you define the microservices architecture. So think of it as an architect that is working with you in your team. And you can iterate over the plan multiple times till you are fully comfortable and aligned with the plan. Do the research and planning always before you begin the implementation. Now, during the implementation phase, one thing I found very beneficial is you always need to have multiple agents to parallelize your work. Now, I'm not in the camp that will tell you that create hundreds of agents like you will see in a lot of YouTube videos where they say I have 100 plus marketing agents running my whole business and I do nothing and sit on the beach. I'm not going to tell you that. What I will tell you is that you can use at least 3 to 4 parallel agents. That's my comfort factor, depending on you. But I try to give them their own space, like their own directory structure. I try to give them their own domain or their own boundaries. For example, an agent that is more focused on the UI, an agent that is more focused on the backend APIs, an agent that is more focused on the database. But you can have even within one domain, for example, if you're working on purely UI project, then you can have, depending on the various components that are there in the UI, structural or logical, you can have those many agents, right? So for me, the sweet spot is about 3 to 4 agents for a particular project. And that's because it's almost like the size of a Scrum team. Usually you have 3 to 4 developers in a Scrum team, and they are working and reporting their work into you. And that's how multiple agents that are working in their own boundary conditions, their own domain, their own scope, they can do the work and start reporting the stuff back to you. Of course, you have to give the right instructions in the markdown files. You have to specify the agent instructions, the agent.md files, potentially even give them their own directories so that they don't conflict with each other. And you can explicitly define the boundary conditions in the agents.md file. But that's my sweet spot, about 3 to 4 agents. Then another thing I found useful is using MCP servers. So a lot of third-party APIs that your projects are going to integrate with, You want to use the MCP servers just so that when you ask a specific question or ask your agent to do certain things, and it's looking at the various tools that it has available, then it can look at all the MCP servers that it has available, the capabilities of those MCP servers, and can leverage them as and when needed during the implementation and planning phase. Another thing that I found really useful is keeping an eye on the session management. So basically, when you're running a chat session with an agent, keep an eye on the context window. Usually about 60 to 70% is where I have personally started seeing the value of the content degrading a little bit. The agents start hallucinating a little bit. So I usually try to do the handoff right about that spot, about 60 to 70% context window. And one of the features that I was not using previously that I've found, I've researched, I've looked at somebody else's video, is using the handoffs.markdown files. So usually to preserve the relevant context, you want to summarize your current session content and then pass it off as a handoff to the next session, just so that the context is preserved, so that you continue to keep getting the right outputs. That feature I found super useful. Another thing I found really useful is when the agents are reporting into you and you are the one who becomes a bottleneck. As contrary it is to the popular belief that you should not be the bottleneck, you should let the agents run on their own, do whatever they want to do. I am in the more traditional camp in that way, that I want to be the bottleneck because I truly want to verify, I want to be the human in the loop who's verifying what outcomes the agents are producing and validating them. So those are some of the ways that I have been using Claude Code. I know I'm missing probably certain things, and one of the features that I've also used is tracking the performance of my basically how I've been using Claude Code, right? So there is a feature in Claude Code, you can go and check back your performance, how you have done, and what are some of the areas of improvement. It gives you a clean dashboard in the Claude Code UI, and it can show you how you need to do better planning. Maybe you need to ask more concrete questions, right? So it'll give you how you are, like maybe it says whenever you are asking a question, you are not able to narrow down on the problem in 5 to 10 questions. That means you have not done your research well. So explore that feature within Claude Code. But these are some of the ways that I have been using Claude Code. I'm sure there are many other cool ways to use Claude Code. And as Claude Code becomes more and more feature rich, I'm pretty sure I'll do another video talking about some more optimization techniques. But I thought this was a good enough point in time where I have spent about a couple of months working on some really cool, fascinating technology with a brand new cloud provider. Obviously, I feel like I'm accelerating my pace of learning, working with Claude Code as a thinking partner, and I think you are going to be feeling the same when you use it in some of the ways I've explained in this video. So hopefully you found the value in this content useful, and if you did, please hit the subscribe and like button, and goodbye for now.